Welcome to online lecture series for Software Engineering KCS 601. Myself Dr. Inderjit Kaur, Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. After covering the various cost estimation models, we will discuss about the software risk analysis and management in terms of software engineering. As we know that software maintenance is the last phase of SDLC, means now my software project has been delivered and what are the different kind of errors that can come after its delivery, they need to be handled to make the software operational in this phase. Then in the software maintenance, sometimes we come to know that there are various uncertainties that are coming practically after the successful delivery of the software. So, those uncertainties, they are known as the software risks. So, in this we have to do how much we can avoid risk, what to do if risk comes, how the risk analysis is done and how they are being managed. So, risk is defined as the uncertainties that are going to play, that are going to affect the successful completion of software project. How they are affecting my already delivered project, that is my risk. They are of various kinds and they are impacting my already launched software. So, we need to define them. Let us discuss one by one parameter. So, risk analysis and management, they are intended to help the software team to understand and to manage these uncertainties that are coming during the development process. These are the concerns for the future happenings. It may come, the chances are, there is a probability that this event will occur, it may or it may not, then it involves the change. Then it cannot eliminate properly, but they can be minimized. There are chances that risk can occur, there are chances that risk will occur, there are chances it may lead to software failure, then there are chances we can eliminate, but 100% it cannot be eliminated, we have to minimize it, we have to overrule it. So, the work product is called the risk mitigation, monitoring and the management plan. We will discuss it this term in the last of this lecture. Then how we are defining the risk first. So, risk is defined as a probability of suffering loss. What are the chances that this loss can occur in my software? So, it gives me an opportunity to develop the project better. Let us take it in a positive way, कि we are just coming to know the chances of failure of my software. It may not happen, but I have to think कि how I can overcome from that probability. Then what is risk exposure? This risk exposure is calculated in terms of the product of size into probability, means the loss size and the loss probability is termed as the risk exposure. Then risk and problems, they both are different. We have tackled problem. Problem means the event that has already occurred and we need to correct it. Error correction we are doing means that problem has already occurred, that bug has already occurred, that defect has already occurred and I need to overcome from that bug in my software. Risk is unpredictable, that thing, something that is very unpredictable, it may come or it may not arise. So, they both are being different and they need to be handled in a different way. Then the different categories of the risk. There are basically three categories of the risk. One of them is the project risk, then technical risk and then the business risk. Starting from the project risk. Project risk, they always threaten the project plan. I am during my SDLC, I make a plan for the delivery of the project. I start with the requirement analysis, I begin my preliminary design, then detailed design is prepared, and then coding and testing comes into the picture, and then I do the integration testing, system testing and all. But they threaten my all business plan, the project schedule, it will slip and the cost will suddenly increase if this project risk occurs. They will completely ruin my project. I have to restart from the beginning. So, the risk factors for this project risk, they are termed as potential budgetary, schedule personal, resource, various stakeholders, various the complexity of my project, the size of the project and the degree of structural, that is very uncertainty. So, they are affecting all these parameters. So, let us say ki what will be the output, the total output will be a total chaos. I have to restart my entire project if project risk occurs into the picture. Then the second risk, that is my technical risk. Because of some technical reasons, the technical risk may arise. So, this risk, if it comes into the picture, it affects my software quality and it untunes the timeliness of the produced software. So, it will change the timeliness of my software. So, implementation, it becomes very difficult, or rather we can say it becomes impossible if there is a technical glitch occurs into my software project. Then the various risk factors, they are affecting because of this technical risk, they are potential design and implementation, the most important. Design is just impossible if there is a technical glitch. Then various interfaces, it disturbs, verification cannot be done, there are maintenance problems may arise, then specification, it gives a ambiguity and technical uncertainty. Then the third kind of risk, it is my business risk. So, this business risk, it creates the problem in the project. There are 5 business risks, they are termed as market risk. Market risk means building an excellent product or the system, but it has not required by anyone. No one require this kind of product what is being delivered to the market, means the software product has been launched and there are 0 users for that. That is a business risk. Then strategic risk. Strategic risk means building of a product that no longer fits into the strategy for the company. So, again a complete failure if that product is launched with strategic risk. Then sales risk, building a product that a sales force does not understand how to sell. So, when we are making a software, side by side there are organizations persons who think for marketing, who think doing strategic planning, who think overcoming from these technical risk, overcoming from business risk, overcoming from project risk. Then and then the project is successful if we are considering risk factor into the consideration. If the organization is not aware, is not bothered about the risk coming in the software product, ultimately software will fail, it will not stand in the market, there will be a total failure of using that software product. Then the fourth one is the management risk. Losing the support of senior management due to the change in focus or change in people. The company persons, the senior person changes, then again a management risk. Everything will be re-understood by the senior persons, that time flies and then it will affect that launched software, it will not stay. Then the budget risk. losing the budgetary or personal commitment that will give rise to the budget risk. Then there are some other risk categories. They are termed as known risk, predictable risk and unpredictable risk. So, let us discuss one by one, starting from the known risk. As the name suggests, they are known, means they are uncovered after the careful evaluation of the project plan, means now they are known to the users. Now they are coming into the picture, now they are visible to the project plan. For example, if we have taken the unrealistic delivery date because of lack of documented requirements or poor development environments. So, once we proceed to the next phase, they becomes visible कि this is the failure now I am getting, that is when I am keeping an eye. Then second kind is predictable risk. Now, once I have given this output, so this input, this output is coming from that scenario, means from that past project experience. Now I am extrapolating my next behavior of my project for this next coming input, that is my predictable risk. That is, for example, staff turnover, poor communication with the customer, dilution of the staff effort as ongoing maintenance request they are being serviced, they give rise to the predictable risk. Then is the unpredictable risk. Because of these unpredictable risks, if they come, it becomes extremely difficult to identify in advance. So, these are the various risk categories. Then is, what is the negative impact of the risk if it arises on the software. So, if the risk it comes into the picture for any kind of software, it diminishes the quality of the product. The product quality total goes down, then the cost is increased. All focus has to go on this software, means for all the phases, I have to see all the phases, I have to recheck for all the phases, for all the inputs. So, that means I am focusing more, I am keeping an eye, I am putting more effort now. So, that means increase in the cost. Then, so everything is being rechecked, it will take time. So, that is delayed completion, and then if they are again not being handled properly, it can create a project failure, total project failure. Then this is the risk management now. Risk management, we can see the two categories for risk management, means risk assessment and then how it can be controlled, risk control. Then assessing the risk means I need to identify the risk first, I need to analyze the risk, then I need to prioritize the risk. So, risk assessment, it comprises of three things. First is my identification, the risk need to identified first, then analyzed, and then it should be prioritized. Then control, risk control. For controlling the risk management, planning should be occurred first. Then after doing management planning, it should be monitored, means risk monitoring comes into the picture, and then in the last risk should be resolved. So, resolution comes third. So, we will discuss all these one by one. This risk management means it helps the managers to make the best use of their available resources, how we can manage the risk with these existing resources. Means management of risk means again we are assessing the risk, we are controlling the risk, again in two phases. So, it consists of three main activities as we have just discussed from this figure. Then moving on to the risk assessment. This risk assessment, it divides the risk in condition of their potential loss. For this stage, every risk should be rated by two methods. First one is the possibility of a risk coming true, that possibility ki this will suddenly occur, this will for sure occur. So, that is denoted by R. Then the consequences of issues related to that risk, that is denoted as S. If this becomes true, what will be the consequences to the software? Then based on these methods, the priority of every risk is estimated, that is P is R cross S. So, P is defined as the priority for controlling risk. R is defined the probability that the risk becoming true, and S is determining the severity of the loss that will be caused due to the risk is becoming true. So, if all identified risk they are set up, then most likely and damaging risk can be controlled first. Means when we are doing the risk assessment, we are coming to know that how many risks for sure they will come into my software. So, after knowing ki these were the risks that will be coming, how they are impacting my software means the severity of those risks and the consequences of those coming risks that need to be recomputed by the project manager. So, based on this, I am now in a situation to prioritize my risk. This risk is first priority, need to be taken care. This risk is least priority, it will not happen, chances are not there that this will happen. So, the path is accordingly reselected by the project manager. Then risk identification. After I am done with the priority of the risk, next task is to risk identify. Systematic attempt to specify the threats to the project plan. This is what risk identification is doing. So, it gives us the predictable and known risk now can be avoided and they can be controlled possibly by their identification. So, after assessing the risk, here I am coming ki these are the predictable risks now and they are now known to the project team. Once they are known to the project team, now the path can be reselected by the software and they can be avoided or they can be controlled. So, there are two kinds of risk for each categorized risk. One is my generic risk and second one is my product specific risk. Generic risk means these are the possible threats that every software will face, and product specific risk means they are identified by that product only once we are having a clear understanding of the technology or clear understanding of that project. Then these risks they are identified by some rules, by some checklist. That checklist is the parameters are the product size, the business impact, the stakeholders characteristics, the process identification, the development environment, the technology to build, the staff size and the experience. Based on these characteristics, these risks they are being identified. So, after risk identification, let us move on to the next phase, risk analysis. So, every identified risk is considered to make a clear perception of its probability and its seriousness. So, that is crystal clear, visible to the project manager now. Next task is to do the analysis of risk that are potentially coming into the picture. So, it is done using perception and experience of the previous project problems. The problems that we have seen in our previous versions of the project and next, now they are also being coming. It depends upon the experience of the project manager, how he is going to analyze those risks now. So, the risk seriousness, it can be authorized using several bands. So, they can be the band can be given as very low if it is the probability is 0 to 10%. They are termed as low from 10 to 25%, they are termed as moderate 25 to 50%, the severity is high if the probability of coming risk is 50 to 75, or it can be very high if it is above 75%. So, the risk effects, it can be determined as catastrophic, means they are going to threaten the survival of the project. They can be serious, means they will delay, they will cause the delay, or they can be tolerable, means delays within contingency, or they are just insignificant ki I have to ignore them. So, based on these severity levels, the risk effects they can be determined in these categories. This is my first category, this is my second category, this is my third category, and this is my fourth category. Then next is risk control, managing the risk to achieve the desired outcomes. Risk should be identified. So, planning is determined and the project is included with most harmful and most likely risk, and different risk they may need different methods. So, they require ingenuity or project manager part in taking this approach. The next is, what are the risk management methods? There are three methods. First is avoid the risk completely, that is by discussing with the client to change the requirements to decrease the scope of work. Nobody wants to work again. So, that is avoid the risk if it arises. Give the incentives to the engineers so that they can avoid it. Then transfer the risk. Transfer the risk means to develop the risky element by third party and by the insurance cover. Let the risk come, it should be transferred, then reduce the risk, that is risk reduction. This risk reduction comes with the planning methods to include the risk. Due to the risk, I have to involve the loss, I have to think about the loss that will occur due to the risk. For example, if there is a risk that this person might leave, so new recruitment can further be planned so as to avoid the risk, it should not affect my existing things. Then is risk leverage. These are choosing the ways for handling the risk as per doing proper planning. The ways to control the amount of risk and its corresponding reduction, they are being decided. So, risk leverage, it is defined as the variation in the risk exposure divided by the amount of reducing the work in the risk. So, risk leverage, it is defined as the risk exposure before reduction minus risk exposure after reduction divided by the cost of reduction. So, this is how we are going to calculate the risk leverage. Next is risk projection. This risk projection, it is also called as risk estimation, and this risk estimation, it attempts to rate every risk. It uses two methods. The four risk projection activities that are commonly used, they are to establish the scale that will reflect the risk probability, to delineate the consequences of risk, estimate the impact of risk on the project, and note the overall accuracy of the risk projection. Then based on this risk projection, risk table is being made that provides simple techniques for risk projection. It starts by listing all the risk with checklist, and each risk is given, it is categorized into the second table by probability of occurrence of every risk is entered, and then impact of every risk is assessed. Then risk exposure, it is calculated using this formula. RE is calculated as P cross C, where P is the probability of occurrence of that risk and C is the cost of the project if it happens. It is calculated, and this RE, it provides the mean for adjusting the final cost of my software, and this RE, it is being used to predict the probable increase in staff resources that are being required. Then is risk refinement and RMMM. Risk refinement means I am refining the risk into more detailed risk when each is easy to monitor and manage. So, this refining of risk, it happens in condition transition consequence format, and it helps me to isolate underlying risk and to give easier response. Then RMMM stands for risk mitigation, monitoring and management. This is, it documents all the work that need to be performed as a part of risk analysis and management by the project manager as a part of overall project plan, and it can be done individually also using a risk information sheet. So, this was all about risk analysis and management. Thank you all.